Have you ever just disappeared? No warning, no explanation. You stopped answering texts, you avoided calls, you pulled back from everyone, even the people you actually love. And the strange part, you didn't fully understand why. You weren't angry, you weren't depressed, at least not in the way people talk about it. You just needed to vanish for a while. If that sounds familiar, this video is going to explain something about you that you've never been able to put into words. There's a moment most people don't talk about. It happens quietly. Someone sends you a message, a friend, a family member, maybe a coworker, and you look at it. You read every word, and then you just put the phone down. You tell yourself you'll reply later, but later never comes. Days pass, then a week, and now there's this invisible wall between you and everyone else. And the longer it goes, the harder it becomes to break through. Sound familiar? Here's what psychology says is actually happening. People who disappear from everyone aren't antisocial. They're not cold. They're not broken. Most of the time, they are deeply feeling people who are quietly overwhelmed, overstimulated, or emotionally exhausted. Psychologists call this social withdrawal, but that clinical term doesn't do it justice because what's really happening is far more nuanced. There's a concept called emotional bandwidth. Think of it like a battery. Every social interaction, every obligation, every conversation that requires you to show up emotionally, it drains that battery. And some people's batteries drain faster than others. Introverts experience this more intensely, but it's not just introverts. High sensitivity people with anxious attachment styles, people carrying unprocessed stress, they all hit a point where the world becomes too loud, and the only solution their nervous system knows is silence. Here's the deeper psychology. Dr. Elaine Aron's research on highly sensitive people found that roughly 20% of the population has a nervous system that processes everything, emotions, noise, social cues, far more deeply than average. These people aren't weak, they're wired differently, and for them, consistent social engagement without recovery time doesn't just feel tiring, it feels physically unbearable. But here's the part that gets really interesting. When these people disappear, when they go quiet, they often don't feel relief right away. Instead, they feel guilt. They know someone is waiting on a reply. They know their silence is being read as rejection. And that guilt adds another layer to the exhaustion. So they pull back even further. It becomes a cycle. Overwhelm, withdrawal, guilt, more overwhelm, deeper withdrawal. And nobody around them understands it, because from the outside, it looks like they stopped caring, but from the inside, they care too much. That's the real problem. So what do you do about it? How do you break the cycle without burning every relationship you have? Here are 3 steps that actually work, and the psychology behind each one. Most people who disappear don't plan to disappear. It just happens. One ignored message becomes 2 becomes 10, and suddenly they're socially invisible. The first step is interrupting that autopilot. When you feel the urge to go quiet, when the phone feels heavy, when social obligations feel impossible, pause for just 30 seconds and name exactly what you're feeling. Not, I'm tired. Be specific. Are you emotionally drained, overstimulated, anxious, ashamed of something, afraid of someone's expectations? Why does this work psychologically? Neuroscience research by Dr. Matthew Lieberman at UCLA showed that simply labeling a negative emotion reduces activity in the amygdala, the brain's threat center. When you name it, you tame it. The emotional charge decreases. You stop being controlled by the feeling and start being aware of it. The real-life application is simple. When you feel withdrawal coming, open your Notes app and write 3 words. Just 3. Overwhelmed, anxious, exhausted. That's it. No journaling required, no deep reflection. Just name it. You'll be surprised how much that tiny act slows the spiral. Step 2. Give yourself permission to rest without disappearing. Here's the thing most people who withdraw don't realize. You are allowed to need rest. You are allowed to not be available. You are allowed to protect your energy. But there's a difference between intentional rest and unconscious disappearance. Intentional rest sounds like, I need a few days to recharge. I'll be back. Unconscious disappearance sounds like silence, and that silence gets interpreted as abandonment. The psychological principle here comes from attachment theory. People with anxious attachment styles, the ones who tend to cling when their loved ones pull back, feel genuine panic when someone goes quiet without an explanation. Their nervous system reads silence as danger. So here's the reframe. Protecting your energy doesn't require you to vanish. It requires a brief, honest message. One sentence, something like, "Hey, I'm going through a lot right now. I need some space. I haven't forgotten about you." That one sentence does something powerful. It protects your peace and it protects the relationship. The other person's nervous system can relax, and you get your space without the guilt. Research on relationship communication consistently shows that even short, low-effort check-ins dramatically reduce anxiety on both sides during periods of distance. The relationship doesn't have to suffer just because you need to withdraw. Step 3. Build micro-reconnections instead of full re-entry. This is the step most people skip, and it's why they stay stuck in the cycle. After a period of disappearing, coming back feels enormous. Answering that message you ignored for 2 weeks feels like climbing a mountain, so you keep putting it off and the wall gets higher. The solution isn't to suddenly return with a long explanation or an apology tour. That's too much pressure, for you and for them. Instead, use micro-reconnections, small, low-stakes gestures that rebuild the bridge gradually. Send a meme, react to a story with an emoji, drop a voice note that's 30 seconds long, text "been thinking about you," and nothing else. Why does this work psychologically? It leverages what behavioral psychologists call the foot-in-the-door technique. A small action reduces the psychological barrier to the next action. Once you've sent one tiny message, replying to their response feels 10 times easier than sending the first one did. It also reactivates the relationship without demanding a performance from you. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to justify the silence. You just gently show up in a small way and let the relationship find its warmth again naturally. Here's how to use it today. Look at your phone right now. Find one person you've been avoiding. Don't write a paragraph. Don't apologize yet. Just send something small. One reaction, one image, one sentence. That's enough to start. The rest will follow.
Here's what I want you to understand. The people who disappear from everyone are not colds. They are not broken. They are not selfish. They are people whose nervous systems reached their limit. People who needed silence because the noise, internal and external, became too much to carry. But silence without intention becomes isolation, and isolation feeds the very exhaustion that caused the withdrawal in the first place. You don't have to choose between protecting your energy and keeping your relationships. Name the state, set the boundary with words instead of silence, and come back. Slowly, gently, one small step at a time. The people who matter will still be there, not because you explained everything perfectly, but because you tried. If this video felt like it was speaking directly to you, there's a reason for that. This channel goes deep into the psychology of how we think, feel, and connect. Subscribe so you never miss it. And drop a comment below, even one word. Tell me, do you disappear sometimes? I read every single one. I'll see you in the next one.